Okay, and the first thing I want to do before I start doing a lot of tuning is save this original solve. So the main thing to kind of check is a couple of big ticket items that could force you to go back into a resolve if they're really not good. That's the jaw and the mouth typically. I usually will start just by checking to make sure that it's not exploding or getting way too fat in this in this area or anything. Just that it's generally working pretty well. If something doesn't look exactly right, I usually will go ahead and enter the tune module, and under jaw you have some sliders for how much fattening is happening, and if it seems like it's too much, like that for instance, just make sure that it's not just a slider that can adjust back to where you kind of want it. So just kind of play with that a little bit and make sure that it's going to be good later on. I don't get into a lot of tweaking at this point, just kind of make sure everything is at a good base. And the same thing for the mouth. I'll just kind of give it a fairly natural open pose just to check. Pull the corners down a bit and just kind of see how it's working. Make sure everything looks right there. So you'll notice in this one the corners are a bit pinchy in here, and that's one of those things you can go back and repick that point on that corner and probably get that to look quite a bit better. Or you can just kind of fix that with sculpting later. And for something like this, honestly, I would just kind of go on from here and fix that later with sculpting instead of resolving this head. So as long as nothing is really obviously bad, you're in good shape. One other little note: F2 brings up this synoptic, which keeps you from going back and forth from the act to the tune panel, and you can reset controls and toggle them on and off and select things, and F2 hides it again. So the other thing to check on the mouth is that it's got the right verts considered the mouth. So if you go to the mouth tab and tune mouth, it gives you this panel, and at the top you can do select mouth, which will show you the cluster that it created for the mouth. And there's a mouth solver and a soft tissue solver in FaceRobot, and the two have to decide which one wins in this area. And so that's what this cluster gives you, a cluster of verts, and then on that, if you do the paint mouth blending, you can actually paint where the influence is heaviest on that cluster with a weight map. So as you can see here, if I just kind of splotch it in, there's a lot of verts that didn't get caught under the nose here that you probably want to grab. So you might want to redefine that cluster. And so I'm going to get out of that and go back to select mouth. I usually will just do that now, and the nice thing is you can resolve just the mouth with the regenerate mouth tool, so you don't have to redo the whole head. But you want to catch it now so you don't get started working on a bad base. So if you just select the face and go into tag point mode, and you can control select that select mouth button and grab the cluster, and then you can start adding your extra points into it. Okay, so I've selected these verts that I want to add to the cluster, and then all you have to do is go to your plus button, just like standard XSI tools, and add those verts to that cluster group, and then that redefines that cluster for you. And you can also actually take away a lot of these. This goes way out on the side of the face, and it's not really necessary. You typically don't want the mouth to control much beyond the corner. So you can actually pare this down a bit, and it might make a benefit in performance later. Or you can leave them and just paint them out with a weight map. In this case, I'll just leave it so you don't have to watch me do it. But once you've got your cluster like you want it, you just hit the regenerate mouth button, and it will tell you it's going to delete any sculpts that you've done already, which you shouldn't have gotten into that stage yet, so you should be safe. And then just say yes, and it will regenerate just the mouth region, which on this mesh is going to take a little while because she's fairly heavy. Okay, and now that that's done, you can check that cluster again and see that it's got all those verts included. And if you go to the paint mouth blending now, you should be able to smooth right up into that area. So that'll give you a little more control as far as how that blends up to the nose. And you can kind of use this to kind of pull some of those verts back out from around the side of the face, and you can symmetry obviously helps on that. So you can do that and give it a nice kind of smoothing. So you can start with that and see how that behaves. Just check and make sure that everything still behaves properly. And that should make a good base for the mouth.